Welcome to Money Secrets with Bill and Mike.
I'm Bill Alexander.
And I'm Mike Tove. And this is part 3 of our discussions with Ray Kathawa of the Independent Excellence Group.
And our audience is so lucky that we have Ray back. Thank you so much for being with
welcome.
us.
Thank you for having me.
But so we've been having a fun conversation, and we've been kind of boiling it down. We've been sort of narrowing the field from very broad. We talked about the insurance industry, and then we kind of moved into annuities in general. And now I'd like to move into a little bit more specifics. The real money secrets are going to be how they get used and why. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we're going to start talking about Welcome back. And welcome back again, Ray.
Thanks.
So for our audience that didn't get to see us earlier, you are one of the founders of the Independent Excellence Group, an elite think tank organization that represents industry people, insurance and advisors and attorneys and so forth around the country, right?
Correct.
So tell us just a little bit more about that.
Sure.
Well, I want the audience to know that this is not just some think tank. You've won many national awards. We're just so lucky to have you. And I know it's really tough to even belong to the IE group. So tell us about it.
Sure. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. So the Independent Excellence Group is a group of some of the top retirement planners, financial advisors, attorneys, estate planners, insurance agents from across the country that really come together academically to learn ways to better serve the industry, to better serve their clients.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Mike, we were talking last show about annuities, and particularly index annuities for income.
Right. And of course that was about where I was going to head, because if we're talking about advising clients, that we're talking about individuals, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time focusing on just what somebody needs. I mean, who needs an annuity, why, and you were making some very interesting points in the break.
You know, you hear the statistic all the time. There's 10,000 people are turning 65 every day. Well, what about the people that are turning 64 and 66?
Right.
You know, the point is there are a large number of individuals that are entering into their retirement years, and the number one topic on their minds, what studies tell us, is income.
Right. But you know, everybody says, well, there's no guarantees in life. But I think there probably are a few things that are kind of on the guaranteed side, aren't there? I mean, you were telling us about this.
Well, here's a couple things that I think you can guarantee are going to happen in life. We're all going to die. But before that, we have to eat, right? We're going to have guaranteed expenses in retirement, no matter who you are. You have to eat. You want to have health care. You want to have a certain quality of life as you enter into your retirement. You know, one of the common misconceptions is when I retire, I'm gonna live half the lifestyle that I lived when I wasn't retired. You don't typically want to go backwards. Every day becomes Saturday, essentially.
Right. So, but go through. You were going through an interesting bit of arithmetic for us on.
Here's an example for you. Going back to the fact that people do have to eat in retirement. So let's pretend we have a married couple, and let's just presume that they're 60 years old. And let's just assume that the cost per meal each day is $10 a meal, and 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now I know it might be a little bit more or less depending on where you live in the country, but if I have a married couple, that's $60 a day essentially. You multiply that by how many days there are in a year, 365 days, and let's take it out 30 years. You said something about longevity in a previous episode. People are going to live longer. So $10 per meal times 2 times 365 days a year times 30 years. You know what that number is, Mike? $657,000.
That's a big number.
That's just food.
And no inflation on that either.
No inflation on that. That's assuming the cost of a gallon of milk is the same today as it is 30 years from now.
And I'd be willing to bet that every housewife out there is going, if you think it's if you think it hasn't changed, you ain't been to the grocery store.
And the point is that you're going to have guaranteed expenses
Sure.
in retirement. If you can, and you can do this, cover those guaranteed expenses with some type of consistent income stream, you're better off.
Well, you know, from my own perspective, an awful lot of financial advisors basically tell you that as you get into retirement years, you need to reduce your risk. In other words, if you're heavily invested in the stock market, they're basically saying go with bonds. You know, your percentage has to be a whole lot larger in bonds, much smaller in terms of equities because of the risk involved. And as it relates to annuities, I think what I learned is that even in an indexed annuity, the consumer's really not into the risk of the market.
They are not, that's correct.
Well, tell us how this type of indexed or income annuity can help us. I mean, it's clear that there is a need for income. Everybody is worried about their retirement income.
Well, generally speaking, depending on the type of annuity that you're using, they have the ability to create an income stream that you can't outlive. They have the ability you have the ability to determine when you want that income stream to begin. And knowing what you know about your retirement expenses, you can plan very effectively around that. So it's planning for really for income in retirement. You can't go with if-come, meaning if this happens, then I'll be okay. You want to worry about income because you know you're going to need that for sure in retirement, and the products have the ability, depending on again what product you're speaking about, to do that.
Well, the two other things that I would want to add to that is, first of all, flexibility is that some of the products allow you to turn the income off and turn it on an as desired basis, and some of them allow you to have the income increase to keep pace with inflation.
That's correct. That is accurate. Flexibility has come a long way in our industry.
Flexibility to me is key. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back and continue this conversation. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. And so, Ray, we were talking about income, and I was trying to make the point that income doesn't have to be a straitjacket, that some people might want to start an income that is just there, but some people might want to have an income that they can adjust.
Yes, you need to have the flexibility because things change in your life. Absolutely.
Well, flexibility is something that's always, it's the number one thing from my perspective that seniors need as they get older.
In another point that I'd like to make, more and more, the generation of people that are retiring right now, we're starting to see less and less pensions.
Yes, true.
So our country has shifted really from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan. So back in time when you'd work at a company, you'd have some type of pension plan. Nowadays you work and you have a 401k and you have to figure out what to do with it and how to make that last the rest of your life.
Well, just to put it in simple terms, it basically means that companies are no longer, or very few companies are offering pension plans anymore where you get a definite amount of money each month from your company. They're just giving you the opportunity to save for your future, and that's what the retirement accounts give you. And that's what most people have, and it really has changed the dynamics of investing.
One of the things, a very noted Nobel Prize winning economist less than 2 years ago published an article that really excoriated corporate America for this shift. And the message that he had given was that old school retirement plans, a pension, a defined benefit plan is what they were formerly called, changed to the 401k, the defined contribution, which was fundamentally a shift in philosophy of we're going to take care of you for life in retirement, to good luck with that.
And tying into what we're talking about here today, what do you do, right? What do? You do have the ability as an individual who does not have a pension to create income for you in your retirement, to really create one yourself, essentially.
Right.
Well, I want to point out, because we have been talking about annuities, that annuities have a certain type of tax consideration as it relates to income. Of course, most of my clients are far more considerate about the preservation of assets as opposed to making sure that it increases by 10% a year, which most folks can't do. But they're much more concerned about the possibility of losing half of their resources. But the income tax is important, particularly for those folks to understand that with annuities, you're basically not paying income tax as it grows.
Right.
But when it comes out, you do pay income tax on the growth as you pull it out.
That's accurate, correct.
And of course, that is coming out it's not a long-term capital gain because it's a tax-deferred vehicle.
It's ordinary income.
It's ordinary income.
Regular income for folks.
Right.
And one of the considerations that some people look at is that annuities that are inherited by your children or your spouse or your grandchildren, they don't get that what's called a step up in income tax basis. So they will still have to pay the income tax on the gain, only the gain, inside the annuity. Everything else is inherited tax-free.
Right. However, when they are getting that, if it's a non-IRA type of an annuity, what they get is a payment that is, every month's payment consists of a portion of gain and a portion.
Right. They're only taxed on the gain.
Right. So if somebody starts an annuity, let's just call it simple numbers, $100,000, and it grows to $200,000, and now they are getting $1,000 a month to make up a simple number. At that rate, only half of that is taxed, the rest of it is not.
Correct. And of course, if it's a retirement account,
then it's all
then
taxed
just
no matter
like,
what.
well, I mean, retirement accounts don't get a step up either for beneficiaries, so all of that is taxed as ordinary income.
So I think one of the good points that Bill made was, a lot of the people that we see at the point in retirement that are right for fixed annuities and fixed index annuities are really at the stay rich part of their lives. They're not in the get rich part of their lives. They got it, they saved, they did well, and rich is a relative term, so let me be clear about that. But they want to protect and preserve what they have, circle the wagons around it, and make sure that it lasts as long as they do, and pass on necessarily what they want to pass on to the next generations.
Well, I kind of, I use, and forgive me for this, I use a bit of a football analogy in this, and that is simply that if you were in a football game, a very important game, and you were down to the last 2 minutes of the game, and you're up by just a little bit, and you've got the ball, and what are you going to do? Are you going to try for another touchdown, or are you going to run out the clock? You're going to run out the clock.
Right.
You've already won the game. Don't risk it by trying for some
really good analogy.
Hail Mary glory
Can I borrow that?
strategy. Yeah, okay. That's good.
Well, I think that's true for our clients, that's for sure, is that they want to stay on that level playing field. They're not trying to get rich in retirement. They're trying just to preserve what they have, and I think these strategies work well for that.
They do. They do.
Yeah. So anyway, what else can we say about them in brief? We're going to be taking a break in a few seconds, but
what's the money secret?
What's the money secret? Yeah.
The money secret is you can have guaranteed income in retirement if you use the right types of products.
And I suspect I'll add on to that. With the right type of product, you can also have flexibility, which is so important to seniors.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm going to add on to that again too, and that is that to get that, you have to talk to somebody who is independent, who doesn't have an agenda, who has access to a broad array of possibilities.
That's a very good point.
So that's really, again, that's the same money we come back to, isn't it, Bill?
It is.
Getting the right advisor more than anything else. We're going to be right back. Welcome back. So Ray, thank you so much for being here for 3 shows. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Well, at least you had good weather while you were here.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
right. But let's do kind of a broad wrap up of everything, because we've actually kind of, you said a train a while ago. So give me your words. How would you summarize where we have been and where we have gone over these last 3 weeks?
Well, I feel like we started really at a high level talking about the insurance industry in general as it relates to retirement planning products like fixed annuities and life insurance. We talked about the safety of those insurance companies, really trying to understand what it is that the consumers would want to know about how insurance companies are regulated. And then we boiled it down to specific products, fixed annuities, fixed index annuities, and how they work and who they're appropriate for. And then we brought it down here at the last part of the train ride, essentially, to who they make the most sense for and what they really have the ability to do, which we tied into creating an income stream.
So let's recap just a little bit. So on the first show, we talked about insurance companies and their safety, and we concluded that they are safe.
Well, I think it's important as it relates to the recap of that show is that the industry is safe, but there's so many variables as it relates to products that are out there and the folks who are actually pushing the products or at least giving the opportunity for folks to see it. And that's where the danger is, in my opinion. It's not the industry. The industry's safe, but there are a lot of products that are not appropriate for certain people. Right. And the way to make sure that that is the case is by having the right advisor, the right person who has the flexibility, the independence, and the like.
Yes. And I totally agree with that. And I frequently refer to it as a square peg in a round hole thing, is that it's not that the industry was bad or even the product was bad, it was an improper recommendation for a need. And then the second one we talked about was the annuities themselves in a very broad sense. And recap for us what you would take away from that.
Well, I would say we talked about the idea that there are many different kinds of annuities, and you guys had mentioned that some people hear the word annuity and it's a bad word and they get afraid of them, and it's really understanding which ones you're afraid of, because for the wrong situation they could be bad, but for the right situation they could be good.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then
well, we also talked about fixed indexed annuities.
Fixed index annuities.
And that was for income, right?
Fixed indexed annuities, could be for safety, could be for growth, and could be for income. We centered in on income because income is one of the top concerns, if not the top concerns of retirees today.
That's right. And then, but the fixed annuity, including the fixed indexed annuities, are safe without market risk for the consumer. Is that correct? Okay. So even though it's indexed to, like the stock market, the S&P index, or some other index, the consumer doesn't have the risk of that, of the market going up and down.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a way of having your account go up when markets are going up because you're indirectly linked, but then when the markets fall, you don't fall. You preserve what you had, and then the next time the markets go up, you just simply push up from there so that there is this ratcheting effect. And I think we mentioned that, again, different companies, different products, different rules. Some of them are going to be better than others. And then the last segment, we drill down onto income.
Correct. We talked about,
And
income, yes.
That's because income is so important, and it's one of those things that that really has to be guaranteed. Because if you run out of income, what then? So for the end of the segment, the industry's safe with the right advisor. Mm-hmm. Annuities can be used
And in fixed indexed annuities are very safe to the consumer if they're used in the right way. And then income can be gained
That's right.
by the use of these products if it's the right fit.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and finish up. And please stay tuned. Welcome back. And again, thank you so much for coming on our show, Ray.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We really
been great.
appreciate
Yeah,
having your
it
expertise with us.
It was wonderful having you come down, and we'll send you back up to Michigan to deal with the cold weather up
No,
there.
it's not so bad.
But anyway, I'm Mike Tove of AIN Services. We do insurance and financial planning and asset protection and preservation planning, retirement planning, a whole suite of things. Please give us a call at 800-363-2296 or check us out on the web at www.ain-services.com.
And I'm Bill Alexander, founder of W.G. Alexander & Associates. We are attorneys who focus on estate planning, elder law, and asset protection. Please join me on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m., 680 a.m. WPTF for my radio show, Asset Protection Today.
And thank you for watching. Tune in next week for another episode of Money Secrets with Bill and Mike.
See you then.
Bye-bye.